Well, thank you for joining us. The Kerala government will have a special cabinet meeting on Monday to decide on the statewide complete lockdown again. Now, Kerala is considering a statewide lockdown, and this is in spite of the fact that capital city Thiruvananthapuram and other parts of the state have already been under lockdown for over 2 weeks right now. And remember, Kerala was the front runner. The rest of the country was looking at Kerala and its battle against COVID that was fought so beautifully. And Kerala acknowledged as well by the UN for the work that it had done. This is actually, I know, worrying for several citizens across the country because everyone is now asking, is there a possibility of a second wave? Is Kerala facing its second wave? Is that what this is? Where are the numbers coming from? Now, 1,038 new cases of coronavirus in the state in a single day on Wednesday, which is the highest spike Kerala has seen in its entire encounter or battle with coronavirus. Now, Dr. Mohammed Asheel joins me right now. He's the Kerala State Social Security Mission Director. So among those people who've been leading that fight, Dr. Asheel, thank you so much for giving us time. I know you're a very busy man, so I won't take up too much of your time. Is this a second wave? How are you looking at this list of cases right now?
We actually categorize our epidemic into three phases, actually. That the first phase, as you know, Kerala is the first state to report COVID-19. So in on January 30th, we reported the first case in India. Then ever since that cohort we call as the phase one. So there are three cases of which we did not have any transmission and practically no mortality, no spread. Then came the second phase in March, second week, then when few people came from Italy. Then that went up to, then came the nationwide lockdown. As we know, Kerala went to lockdown 2 days before the national lockdown. So then that phase ended on May 4th, our new cases were 0. And our active cases were just 3.5% because 96.5% of the cases we were recovered of the cases recovered from here. So then came this phase, but this phase was quite expected. It's not that we have been caught by surprise. We have been always speaking of these things, and even you look at our preparations, that was actually envisaged to fight this. So the lockdown, what we had done in the initial days, because we have been we are on the 175th or 176th day of epidemic, maybe the longest epidemic we happened starting from the phase 1 to now. So all these days we were preparing ourselves to face this. So we are not really caught by surprise, but the only thing is that the rate of increase is this. How did this happen? Is that after May 4th, when this lockdown was released and international travel was allowed and interstate travel was allowed, then something we expected happened, that many people from abroad. As you know, Kerala is a state with a lot of expatriates. We have a great proportion of expatriates. So around 5.5 lakh is the number of people who have came to Kerala from other states and also from abroad, basically. So this was quite expected that there would be a spike. So what we did was, our approach was actually on three major angles. One is to stop the virus from reaching the community. So for that, what we did is something called trace, quarantine, test, isolate, and treat. That was our equation in handling that. Then if the epidemic reaches the population, or in order to decrease the pace of the epidemic in the population, we started a campaign called the Break the Chain campaign. It's behind me. You can see that banner.
So, if I may interrupt you, forgive me. What are you expecting right now? You did say that you were expecting this third phase, because there were some news reports that said that your very good work has actually come undone. That this is actually, that all the good work that has done is now been reversed by this. What is your expectation from this third phase? How long do you expect it to go on for? And what is it going to take to bring it under control?
Yeah, in this phase, our this is the cluster containment strategy. Because now what we have is we have around 101 clusters. So that clusters basically means a large community cluster means the cluster which is having more than 50 cases, unrelated cases. And there are several steps in that. That is large community clusters, small community cluster, institutional clusters. There are few clusters. There are clusters. One cluster we have identified. So these clusters we need to contain them at the cluster level itself before going into the community. But in few areas, in the Trivandrum, specifically two areas, that is Pundura and Pulluvila. But here, there community spread. There is a defined community spread over there. If you look in that angle, across the nation, there is community spread. Even if we address it or not, even if acknowledge it or not, there is a lot of community spread across the nation. So now, in this area, what we are planning is that we are doing a cluster containment strategy, wherein which we are decreasing the pace of the epidemic. If you see, when we say about statewide lockdown, almost 301 places in the state is almost in the lockdown phase itself. The containment areas are almost in lockdown. And specifically when it comes to Trivandrum and few parts of Ernakulam, and also in Malappuram, there are specified triple lockdowns. So these now this would be our intention. Our aim at this phase is decreasing the mortality. This is something an inevitable phase of an epidemic of this kind. So even if you see any country that has been went through this epidemic, when we stay in a place between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, where an epidemic is happening at a level where around 70 to 80 people die on a day, we are dealing with such a kind of epidemic. So what we do is that in this phase, our intention is to decrease the mortality. So we have a case fatality rate, as you know, of around 0.30. Then our death per million is somewhere around 1.3. So whereas, yeah.
Yes. So do you expect, or should we expect, that the other states as well that might not be in what you call phase 3 should also be prepared for such a phase 3?
Of course, I think almost every state is in that that actually has went to that phase. That thing is that whether you acknowledge it or not, community spread is happening across the nation. But the practical, for example, if you see a classical example, when Amitabh Bachchan family got epidemic of infected by COVID-19, did any media ask from whom did they get it? Because that's irrelevant in that phase. Because you don't have the source, no more source identification, or this contact tracing is relevant in many places in India. But still, in Kerala, what happened is that in two of the places, we don't go for contact tracing, because we already know that entire area is a source. Whereas for all other places of our 101 clusters, what we do is cluster containment strategy, in which we identify the cluster, close the loop, do antigen test there, find the cases, treat them. And at this phase, we need to identify that we need to improve our health system capacity.
Right. A last question to you right now. Do you recommend a full lockdown for Kerala, and how long do you think this lockdown should be?
A full lockdown is really a last option. So there is a cabinet meeting happening on Monday to discuss on the various aspects of that, because the people who depend on daily wages, especially the auto rickshaw drivers, all those people who actually, who for everyone who gets salary and is secured in their food, so they may be able to go for a lockdown. They may be in favor of lockdown, but there are many other aspects we need to look in a state like Kerala and in a nation like India. We need to look into many other aspects when it comes to a complete lockdown. So what is being done is that as part of cluster containment strategy, we are doing specified localized lockdowns, but going for a statewide lockdown, which would eventually, it should obviously be beneficial for the epidemic to come down or to decrease the pace of the epidemic. But that comes with a big social cost and an economic cost, where that compromise will be discussed on Monday. So I think, but this is something nothing to be panic about until we keep our mortality rate and the death per million within our limits.
All right. Doctor, thank you so much for spending time with us and answering these questions. Of course, we ask for the people of Kerala, stay safe and follow instructions put out by the government. Hopefully, Kerala will continue its winning streak with COVID-19.
We will. Thank you. Thank you.